Alrighty, now the video that's going to take the most editing today. My trip down. So I rented a U-Haul in Walpole, New Hampshire. Really North Walpole, New Hampshire, from Obashan Hardware. And I didn't get much instruction from the guy who gave me the vehicle. But anyway, that's where I set off from. I took it to my apartment. I expected to load it up in a day. Really, it took me 2 days to get fully packed up and load the truck and get everything that I wanted to take into it. And then, of course, I'm on the road for half an hour and I realized that I forgot my meditation cushion. Fortunately, I also forgot my iPad charger. Why is that fortunate? Well, because the complex, maintenance and manager guy, he went through the apartment and he saw that it was there, and he contacted me and told me that I'd left an iPad charger, and anything to do with Apple is not cheap. So I asked him if my meditation pillow was there, and he went back and looked, and yeah, sure enough, it was. So he's sending both to me, so that's great. Meditation has not been easy since I've been here. My routine is disrupted. I don't have the cushion. There's not a handy place to do it, but I've managed to get it worked in every day until today, and the day's not over. But my trip. So yeah, I loaded the whole thing on my own, and well, except for the big pieces of furniture that had to be carried down the stairs. And again, the maintenance guy, Rob, he helped me with that. And it was a lot of work. A lot of work on my 53-year-old back. And I was afraid that I was going to, as they say, throw it out, which is to say, provoke spasms in my lower back. It's been a problem in the past, and it didn't happen. So yay. I was going to knock wood, but we're good. Already there. It doesn't hurt, right? So we set out, and the last thing I put into the truck, of course, was the cat, because the cat hates traveling. Cats like what's familiar. They're territorial, but she's lived a lot of different places. We've moved a lot together. We've done a lot of long road trips together, and I knew what to expect. And in the past, on a multi-day road trip, she cries for most of the first day, and then thereafter she settles down. Well, she didn't cry the whole first day, but she did cry for the first couple hours. And in fact, here's a little clip of me driving through Chester, Vermont, which is like 20 minutes after I left my destination. Snow. Hopefully this is the only snow I see in this whole trip. Meow. Mocha's very upset. Very upset. She does not like this. All right, so that was Mocha crying incessantly in Chester, Vermont. And, as I drove through Chester, I took that video and I sent it via WhatsApp to Rose in the Philippines, and I told her, hey, I hope this is the only snow that I see on this whole journey. Well, the route that I was taking out of Vermont took me up over the mountain through, past several ski resorts, and yeah, there's a lot of snow on the mountain. And I saw a lot of cars passing me, going the other way that were just covered in snow, and people doing that thing where you just clear a little porthole in the windshield instead of clearing it all off. Not safe, but a lot of snow up in the mountains. But I figured as soon as I got out of Vermont, that would be it for the snow. Was I ever wrong? So my route took me across upstate New York, and fortunately, I have an Easy Pass. So I didn't have to stop and pay all those tolls. I got an email from Easy Pass today saying that they just charged me $33 to make up for all the tolls that I went through. But at least I didn't have to stop at every single toll booth. And in fact, they got rid of the toll booths, and there's just a sign that says, if you pass this sign, send or call this number, but it's just a three numbers. So I guess they mean text, and provide an address. It's like, wow, you're kidding me. I'm supposed to do that every time I pass one of those things? Anyway, as I was driving west across upstate New York, it snowed lightly off and on all day, but the temperature was always just above freezing, or, just below, but not so far below that the roads, particularly an interstate highway, would get cold enough for the snow to stick. I thought I was good. But I spent a good part of the day paralleling the shore of, I think it's Lake Erie. It's one of the Great Lakes. And I never did see the lake. I could just see on the map that I was very close to it. But we had lake effect snow pretty much all afternoon. But again, as soon as the snow hit the pavement, it melted, so it wasn't a problem until the sun went down. And then it stopped melting when it hit the pavement, and then it became a problem. And it got so bad at several points that I couldn't really see where the road was. And, typically it was a 2-lane highway in each direction, and there'd be a set of tracks that the cars ahead of me had laid down. So I could see, these 2 parallel, lanes, or actually 4 of them, two tires on for each lane. And I could use that. And then eventually, sometimes it would just go down to 1 set of tracks. You couldn't tell where the lanes were, So there was a truck ahead of me, and it wasn't like a big 18-wheeler. It was the sort of trucks that I usually hate. It was big, black, jacked up high, a pickup truck, and it, instead of the normal exhaust that comes out below the body of the car, it was behind the cab, these 2 vertical like smokestacks, I guess modified for rolling coal, as they say, to emit a lot of black smoke to offend the environmentalist liberals. And it was loud. And I was behind that guy for a long time, and I was happy to have him there. That continuous rumble of the loud truck and me being able to see his taillights, it was a comfort. It was a navigational aid. But even in the worst times, when I couldn't see, where the lanes were, and I was really just following the guy ahead of me, and there would be people who would pass me, usually on the left, but sometimes on the right, at high speeds. Insane. And I saw multiple wrecks. And what I mean is, multiple groups of several cars pulled to the side of the road with everybody out of the car, on their phones, exchanging information and whatnot. And I saw a couple cars that had spun out and were down in the ditch, or one that was kind of, past the ditch and onto the hill next to it and pointed down with their blinkers on. I mean, it was not a safe environment, but I got through it just fine. And I had planned to spend about 12 hours on the road getting from Bellows Falls to Columbus, Ohio, which is where I had a room reserved. And took more like 14, 15 hours, but still, I got there. It's all good. Woke up the next day, and man, was it cold. I was traveling with a Schefflara tree in the back of the truck, and when I got to my hotel, I carried it inside. And got a couple strange looks from the people working there. Why is this guy bringing this big plant into the hotel? But woke up the next morning. It was still very cold out. And in fact, I sent Rose this video. There you go. You can see my breath now, huh? Cold. All right, so again, loaded up the truck. The last thing to put in the truck is the cat. And, I take her out in the carrier, and I put her in, and I had, the U-Haul had 2 just independent bucket seats with a big gap between them, and I filled that gap with big pillows and blankets and stuff. So there was a tower of cushy stuff, for like the Princess and the Pea sort of thing. And that was Mocha's station, and she got to be there. She would come over onto my lap from time to time, but the way I had to sit in the truck, it didn't really make for a good lap. My legs were parted, and there just wasn't a good place for her to be. So, and I kept encouraging her to go back to her stack of blankets and pillows. And she stayed there for the most part, and she cried for a few minutes at the beginning of the second day, but she settled in pretty quickly. And, she's only in the carrier just to be taken out to the truck, and then as soon as I'm settled in, I unzip the top and she gets to pop out. And unzip the top. My kitty carrier is a collapsible thing, and it's got this zip screen on the top. So she goes in and out the top, not one of the sides. And she settled in pretty quickly, and she slept for most of the day. So, small miracles, be grateful, all that good stuff. The second day's driving, very different from the first. I mean, the first was just nerve-wracking. And I had intended to take, what do you call it? I had intended to take a wakefulness drug. I think it's called Midoxanil. There's a few different variations on it. I'll look it up and put the name up on screen here. But I forgot to take it out, and it was just packed away, and I didn't have it on the first day. So I got through on coffee and 5-hour energy. But I made sure to have it out, and ready, at the ready. And I planned to take it right around noon. If you take it past noon, there's no sleeping, really, the next night. And I knew I would want to sleep. So I had the timing of it down pretty well. And this stuff, it's not good for a lot of things. It's not good for creative work. If I have if I have a looming deadline on a comic or, some artwork, this stuff is not good. It kind of turns me into a robot. But being turned into a driving robot on a long drive is, it's just what the doctor ordered. It is the ticket. It's the stuff. And this stuff is just miraculous for that. And I drove all day, and I never got sleepy, and never got drowsy, never got distracted. It was just a miracle. But, I remember getting out of the car to fill up in somewhere in southeast Missouri, not quite down to Rolla, but further south than St. Louis. And as I got out of the U-Haul, and you have to climb down from these things, I was looking over at the gas station, and I saw the attendant, and he was looking out at me. And he just smiled in recognition as he saw me, moving like, oh, my back, and, straighten it up. And, because I'd just been sitting for too long. My brain was perfectly focused on the driving to the point where I ignored the pain in my body. But I was on I-70 for most of the second day. And I-70 is such a familiar thing for me. I used to live in Kansas City. I went to school in Columbia, Missouri. They're connected by I-70. I had friends in St. Louis. I've driven east and west on I-70 so many times. It's very, very familiar. And on that second day, I started off in Ohio, and then I went to Indiana and Illinois, and then Missouri and Arkansas. Once I got to St. Louis, I got off I-70, and I was on I-44 for most of the way after that. But the second day, I noticed that the I-70 and the Midwest truck stops and rest areas, it's just a very different vibe from the Northeast. In the Northeast, you've got these sort of state-maintained highways with very few exits. These are the ones, these are tollways. And they have these service plazas where they have gasoline, but also restaurants and gift shops and things. And, the restaurants are franchise restaurants, and they're packed. You stop at these places, the parking lots are always full. They're always full of people, lots of tourists. But then on I-70, it's very different. On I-70, it seems like these rest areas are mostly aimed at truckers. There's usually no restaurant there. Maybe there's some vending machines and, restrooms and a water fountain, and lots of parking for big trucks designed so that they never have to back up. And that's another issue. It was my intention to go from New Hampshire all the way to Arkansas and never have to put the truck in reverse once, because I'm the sort of person who usually ignores the side mirrors and mostly relies on that central rearview mirror, and the U-Haul truck doesn't have one. It was definitely, I had to rely on the side mirrors. And it's hard to back up that way. And in fact, the contract that I got with U-Haul, it expressly said, don't back up unless you have a second person to help guide you. And well, did I make it without ever having to back up? Here, check this out. All right, here is my U-Haul truck. Well, it's not mine. In fact, I'm taking it back tomorrow. Be unloading it today. But I drove that truck from Walpole, New Hampshire to here, Berryville, Arkansas. Never once put it in reverse. The interstate highway system in this country is built for big trucks. And, if you plan right, you can cross the whole country and never have to put it in reverse once. I did have to pass on one place that I had stopped to eat because I couldn't find a place where I'd be able to park, and just drive out without backing up. But that was not a big hassle. I found another place quite easily. No rear view mirror because, what would it show me? But I guess I'm one of those drivers who habitually neglects the side mirrors and is over dependent on that rearview mirror. So, as I say, the rest areas along I-70, in those Midwestern states, they don't offer many amenities other than just a place to stop and close your eyes or walk around or get a drink or, relieve yourself, which is all very, very necessary. But accompanying, not, in the same places, but in the same system, you have all of these truck stops, which are, again, designed for the big tractor trailers so that they never have to back up, with lots and lots of space in the parking lots, and usually lots of restaurants and all the things that you would need. In fact, far more choice, much greater selection of food items and other items than you'd find in the service plazas in New England and New York, and in the what I'm coming to think of as the blue state rest areas. The red state rest areas have nothing, but then there are these truck stops where you have everything, and it's competitively priced. Whereas, in the state curated rest or service plazas, everything's very expensive. So, middle of the country, much more consumer oriented, capitalistic, and there's just, I guess, the competition between different trucking plazas or truck stops that drive the prices down or keep the prices down. And I have to say, I prefer the I-70 Midwest corridor style of rest area combined with truck stops to the all-in-one service plazas of the Northeast. I hit St. Louis at rush hour, and the sun was going down, so I was not about to pick up my phone and try to catch any footage. But it's always a marvel to me to approach St. Louis from the Illinois side, and to see that great big gateway arch, and you see it like this time of year. There's no leaves on the trees, and I don't know exactly how far from the bridge it was, but there's a point where the arch is just poking up above a hill, but you can't see any of the buildings in the city. So it really stands out, and it's just such a marvelous thing. But then the interchange, particularly in a big U-Haul, where changing lanes is stressful because the blind spots on those things are massive. And there were a couple times when I decided to change lanes, looked in the mirrors, didn't see anybody, turned the signal on, let it blink a few times, and then I started to change lanes, and I'd hear this honk, and I'd pull back into my lane, and then some car would pass me. So I didn't want to change lanes unnecessarily in and around St. Louis. But then once I got onto 44 and I was heading south or southeast, I guess, towards Springfield, the sun had pretty much set at that point. But as I would be coming up these hills, and it's very hilly, there's no tall buildings around, there's no tall trees. So it was just big sky with this strip of brilliant red just along the horizon. And when you'd peek up, over the tops of hills, it was just glorious. And I tried to get some pictures, and the pictures, I'm trying to take pictures while driving, and the driving, of course, has to take precedence. So the pictures are nothing to write home about, and they certainly don't capture the majesty of those sunsets, or the majesty of those sunset views. It was just one sunset. But then I arrived here at my mother's place, and, I've been living by myself for a long time, and I got here, and the place is full of junk, and it smelled of mildew, and I was just thinking, I can't live here. And I had a friend, or a podcast listener who I've met in person, who has a big house in Northwest Arkansas. It's about an hour and 20 minutes drive further east. It's on the far side of Fayetteville from here. And I thought, I'm just going to go there. And I tried to contact him, and I didn't get him that night. And I'm glad, because, I stayed here overnight, and in that, in the hours that I was here, I realized, hey, I didn't leave my comfy spot in Vermont and drive cross country, with the cat in order to take up residence in Farmingham, Arkansas. I have no ties to that place, and I have no reason to establish any ties to that place. I came here to be in Berryville. So here I am in Berryville, and I spend a lot of time outside now because, I don't breathe so well inside my mom's house, although I think think things are going to get better. And I'm going to buy an air purifier. I've already picked it out. Haven't ordered it yet. I'm waiting for my monthly Patreon payments to hit PayPal before I make that purchase. But all my stuff, most of my stuff anyway, is in a storage facility here in Berryville. There wasn't room, to unload it into my mom's house. My mom's house is full of stuff. So we're making room for it. It's a long process, but hopefully I'll have my equipment unpacked and I'll get back to my normal creative output soon. But I'm really enjoying, making these videos, and I'm really enjoying getting to know my new Pixel 6 phone, which is, got a much nicer camera and good photographic software, or you might say AI, and custom tensor chip inside the phone, and it's great. But of course, it's a new version of Android, and everything is left-handed and weird for me, and it's not as automatic and comfortable as my old cheap Huawei phone with its older version of Android. But there's the possibility, there's the option of getting out of this gesture mode for the new Android and going back to the familiar interface. And I'm, just for the sake of encouraging neuroplasticity and mental flexibility, I'm sticking with the new interface. Anyway, that's probably a different topic for a different video. I've probably left something out. If you have any questions or comments about long-haul, cross-country driving in the United States, you know what to do. Post them in the comments or on Patreon, either way. And as always, please, if you have reached the end of the video, hit that like button. I will talk to you again soon.